WF representing Palace, so let's tell you about Palace. Rolling straight to the ceiling, crowns and crystals, top like journeys, dishing out malice. Hold up, South London's grandest, far from bandits. Anything earned for a goal of elevation, just passing the team over here might finish out. Bright future, we can't vanish. SE25 any day, that's sellers. Rev up the engines, no more reverse reactions. Fan cams, bands on stream. Share up the team, support the dream team when Eagles fly, make noise and scheme. Dare to dream or dream to dare, taking a step to become supreme.
Yes, guys, Eagle-eyed Football here. Welcome back to another episode of TACT-EAGLE. And you guys are lucky. This is twice in 1 week. Happy bank holiday to everyone. Hopefully you've all had a nice day off of work or off of school, depending on if you go to school or not. But as always, I am joined here by Statman Dan, aka Misinformation Man Dan. Or Rich, depending on when if you're in the group chat. How's it going?
I'm all good. I'm looking forward. Well, I say I'm looking forward to tomorrow. I'm not looking forward to tomorrow. I don't know why I said that, but I'm looking forward to the fact it's a 3:00 Saturday kickoff at Selhurst. I believe after tomorrow, there's only 2 left of the season, so obviously gonna try and enjoy it. It's Good Friday today. Hopefully, like Jesus would do on Sunday, hopefully we rise a day early.
Yep,
and
we're going to be glad that we don't play against Arsenal because Jesus has already done a madness against us a few times.
Yeah, no, definitely. But my hopes for this game, obviously I wasn't on the preview yesterday, but my hopes for tomorrow just simply, I think, get a result. Even if we shit out a result, like I'm really not bothered. I think just a result today, I think will be really important because obviously we lost to City, we lost to Newcastle. Personally, I wasn't expecting anything from those games, but obviously conceding 10 in those games is not ideal, regardless of what the XG stats say. And I think, going into an important game, semi-final, I think you want to be on that. You want to have a bit of momentum, and I think getting a win tomorrow is going to be really important, or at least putting in a good performance. But other than that, I'm good. How are you, JC?
Yeah, I'm all right. I actually had a whole day off, so I could actually just look into the game. So I rewatched our game against them earlier in the season, and I'll tell you what, we rode our luck in that game to actually come away with a 0-0 draw there. No,
absolutely.
But I think the only thing I would say is, Dan, you know how you've been spreading misinformation?
Sometimes.
How do you think Mr. Information feels?
Mr. Information? Who's Mr. Information?
You don't get it?
No.
You have been spreading misinformation.
Oh. Oh no!
Let's get into the predicted 11.
You're practicing, aren't you? You're practicing the dad jokes.
Shut up, man. Anyway, it was a good one. You just didn't get it. You just didn't get it.
No, I didn't. I'm not gonna lie.
All right, Dan, let's talk about some injuries. For us, once again, it is only Chadi Riyad and Chettakore. Everyone else is back.
Yeah.
For them, Unal, Ryan Christie, and Sinistera are all injured. There is a 75% that Kleiber is back. It's just a fitness test. My guess is he will be back. But I would say that when we go into the 11, I think it's harsh on a certain player that has been playing very well for them in that number 10 position. And someone who I believe that Palace should have bought before Bournemouth did. And because he hasn't actually been getting the game time he deserves, maybe we should try and buy him in the summer if he's still not getting that game time. And we'll speak about him in a little bit. But here is what I have gone with. For us, I've basically gone with the same team. Henderson, Mitchell, Gay, Lacroix, Richards, Munoz, who signed a new deal today. I have gone slightly different with Wharton and Hughes instead of Wharton and Lerma. I'm not saying that Lerma was the problem in the last game or the last 2 games, but I do think that in this game, Bournemouth are a little bit less physical, and I don't think that we really need that aerial assistance that Lerma gives us in the midfield in this game. I feel like we need to be a little bit better with the ball at our feet, with Ebbs on the left, Sarr on the right, and Mateta up top. I will say that after what Ebbs did in the last game, I was half tempted to throw França in at the start, but I stuck it with Ebbs.
It's still not over that. That penalty. And obviously, I know we're not past it, but that penalty is going to be shown on crap penalties like for the next 20, 30 years.
Okay, is it as bad as Lookman's?
No, and the reason why I think it's not as bad as Lookman's is because Lookman's was like, I think, wasn't it like the last kick of the game or something?
Yeah.
So based on that, like the thing is, if we had come back and maybe scored and it ended up 1-1, no one would care. But like, I just think Lookman's was worse. And yeah, I've just seen Rich's comment. I saw that video as well. They had like five of his 5 penalties. Obviously, Palace had 2 of them, and the other one was Jason Punchin's one. So you know,
I mean, to be fair, you could slap Benteke's one against Bournemouth on there as well.
Was that in the league though?
I think so.
I can't remember if it was. If it was, then yeah, absolutely, certainly.
But yeah, that penalty was something else.
Yeah,
and I would say that Glasner, I'm sure that he'd have a very calm conversation with Ebbs, and he's going to calmly say, "You're never taking a penalty for me ever again. Even in a penalty shootout, you're going last." And I'm sure Mateta's going to be taking penalties if we get them from now on.
Yeah, I think.
Then again, his penalties are rubbish. At least he kicks the ball properly when he takes it.
Do you know who's got a surprisingly good penalty? Mark Gay's got a surprisingly good penalty.
No, he doesn't. If Mark Gay,
he does.
If
he does.
Listen, if he ever steps up to take a penalty, I'm going to have a heart attack. Have you seen him take that penalty in the Chelsea shirt?
He just bangs it.
No, he puts the ball down, takes one step back, and then throws his foot through it.
Yeah, that's what I mean. He just sorry. He just whoops. He just put he just gives it.
He just bangs it.
Yeah, he just bangs it. Like no, but do you know what the thing is, right? Sorry, I'm having a moment here, but like I just think, right, with penalties, you've already got such an advantage. Why do you need to do that? Like you've already got, or you just put it in the bottom corner. Anyway, sorry, I'm ranting a bit there. I didn't have a yesterday to get over it, but yeah, I'm over it now.
I don't think you are.
In terms of the team, I completely agree, and because I know people say about rotating and stuff like that. Personally, I think for this game, I'm okay with no rotation.
We have to rotate against Arsenal.
It's Wednesday that I want rotation, and then depending on how this game goes, maybe you can think about subs later on in the game and stuff. But certainly Wednesday for me is the day that we should be rotating.
I don't think we'll do a TACT-EAGLE on Arsenal because we played them twice already this year. But I would like to see a whole new front three starting. França, Nketiah, and Esse if we can. But it'll probably be Kamada for one of those guys.
Yeah. I can see your comment as well about Chilwell. My personal opinion about Chilwell, and I think it's also the reason why I prefer Mitchell in this game as well. Mitchell was terrible, But I just think with Chilwell's pace in a game that is nearly always everything was pretty much transition. I just think Chilwell would have gone
Roasted.
Yeah, I think he just really would have gotten roasted.
And even in this game, this man
Yeah,
would make Chilwell look silly.
yeah, exactly.
Let's go on to their team now. So they play a 4-3-3, but it's more like a 4-2-3-1 formation. I've gone with Kepa in goal, Kirkez, Senesi, Hoyson, Smith at the back. Senesi could be changed to Zabani. It really could. Doesn't really matter. I've gone with Cook and Tyler Adams in the middle, with Clivert coming straight back in to the starting 11. If he's fit, he's going to be playing. He's one of the best players this year. Otara on the left, Evan Nilsson up top with Semenyo on the right. The person I did say that I think it's harsh on is Alex Scott, because he has been playing in this number 10 position while Clivert's been injured. And I don't know, hot take, I really liked him as a player when he was at Bristol. I was quite upset that we didn't actually get him. Granted, when they did buy him, we did get Conor Gallagher on loan, so not the end of the world. But Alex Scott is a different kind of player. He's unreal, and I think he's going to be very unlucky not to keep his starting position here.
Yeah, no, I agree, and also as well, Alex Scott. I agree. I was also someone who kind of wanted him, and he's still only 21. So
yeah, I'm a firm believer that when Adam Wharton goes, he would be one of the top people on my list. He is a slightly different kind of player, where he'd much rather dribble at people, but his passing is still unreal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, let's go into some comments before we move on to the attack. So, big up everyone in here. So, big up Chairman, big up Animal. Saw Villa sold out their allocation as well. We sold out before they did. I just thought I'd let everyone know that. Big up Freddie saying start a rotated team, maybe probably against Arsenal, probably not in this game, because you can't rest a whole team for a whole week before the game, because there'll be like no cohesion there when we actually play at Wembley. I expect a rotation versus Newcastle. Big up Pat. I'm going to this game, bricking it. Theory Glasman's given up on the league and is treating these league games as sort of training or pre-season. Big up Pat again. I'll probably go full strength in the upcoming games. Rio's not a fan of my joke earlier. Big up Rich, big up Animal. Worst, yeah, we spoke like this. Yeah, third worst. I could probably name you a few more penalties as well. I remember when Zaha missed one as well.
Yeah.
He literally shanked it wide against Norwich, I believe it was.
I think he. Yeah, I can't remember if he fell over. He did. Yeah, he did. Yeah, he like slipped in like roll.
And then about 10 minutes later, he scored the goal of the season.
Yeah. And actually, one other penalty that's definitely there in my mind was Arsenal's penalty. I don't know who it was against, but when they tried to do that old Johan Cruyff one, and Robert Pires tried to like pass it and then they have a shot, but he completely missed the ball, and then the ref deemed that he touched the ball, and then the other team just cleared it.
No, I tell you another penalty that really upset. I'm really going into this penalty thing today. Another penalty that really upset me, and it was quite a bad penalty. It was when we were playing Man City at home and we held them to 0-0 all game, and then we get a penalty in the 88th minute, and Lucas steps up.
Oh yeah,
and he puts it straight down the middle.
Yeah, I remember that.
So Lucas missed 2 penalties for us, and both of them was when he went down the middle. Whenever he picked a corner, he scored every time. He only missed when he went down the middle, and that was twice. That upset me a lot. That was you know what? Underrated player. Did have quite a few stinkers though. Let's be real.
Yeah.
Remember when? This is really off tangent. Remember when Frank de Boer tried to play him centre back?
We were trying to play him ball playing possession-based football with Scott Dann at the back.
Yeah, and James Tompkins. We had a back three of Luca, Tompkins, and Dan, with Ward playing wing back. Oh my days!
Jesus Christ!
At least Glasner plays Ward at centre back. My God. Big up Durfairs. We need to rotate 10 goals in 2 games. Ain't good enough. Big up Mary. Someone tweeted that if we go to Pens, Eder should go after Henderson. I back it. We'll lose on Pens. Big up everyone. Yeah. And Luca was fantastic, but dropped off quick. Yeah, his legs went and he fell off next day. If we go to Pens, who else do you reckon? All right, quickly before we go on, who would your 5 takers
Pens?
be? Who would your 5 takers be?
Well, assuming there's no injuries or anything. Wait, hang on. Let me have a think here. Just looking at our thing. So
I'll probably say JP.
I'm not thinking about who may or may not be on the pitch. If we're just talking probably first 11, I would probably say Mateta would be number 1. I know Ebbs did a terrible penalty, but you can't. I mean, realistically, he's going to take it over like Chris Richards, isn't he, or like Tyreek Mitchell?
We'd have to. Okay.
I don't know. I don't know what Munoz is like I don't know what Munoz is like in a penalty shootout, but I feel like Will Hughes would be somewhere in there.
I think I put Wharton in there as well. He can strike a dead ball really well. Too.
I put Wharton in there.
Sarr as well.
Sarr probably.
Actually, did you see Kamada's penalty that he took for Frankfurt in the penalty shootout?
I did. I did see that.
Incredible penalty off the post. If he's on the pitch.
Yeah, if he's on the pitch. But you know what? I think Gay's got a good pen on him. I think he's actually, you know what? I'm going to stop talking because I know what's going to happen. So I'm going to move on.
What if he steps up for pen number 1?
Well, this is what I'm saying. So I'm not talking anymore. Okay. So
stress. Richard said
Henderson number 1.
JP, I can't. Ever since I know Hennessy's not Henderson, but my God, that penalty's still not landed yet. It's probably orbiting with Punchin's one.
It landed like when the ball goes over the fence into your neighbour's garden. That ball went into the neighbour, as in like the International Space Station garden, and they're just playing with it up there.
Oh yeah. Let's go on to the attack. So they're quite a good attacking team, but I would say in the last few months they haven't really been where they have been, let's say. So they started the season really, really strong. When we spoke to Craig last night, he said that he thinks their team's getting tired. There's fatigue setting in. And, the last couple of weeks, it's been 3 game weeks for both teams. So it's going to be a really tough time for them as well. But they still have elements of when they play, which is why I do think that maybe Alex Scott has shone so much for me personally, because he hasn't had much game time this year, and so which means he's not got any fatigue on him. And then when he's come in, he's looked like the most energetic player on the pitch. But when looking at it, it's quite interesting in how they're actually able to move the ball, how they attack, and what they do to make space and to get or to score goals against the opposition team. And it's quite interesting because I think, in a weird way, how they play could be very detrimental to us and how we play. So let's move them into their sort of how they set up. So they've got a lot of weapons in here. First one is Huijsen. Imagine they've basically got a 21-year-old Joachim Andersen. That's how his passing is. His passing was unreal. They've got Smith, he's a solid right back, nothing special. He doesn't really get down the line too much, but he's still a very solid right back. Kirkez, there's a reason why Liverpool want him to replace Robertson at the end of the season. He's very good going forwards, and he's probably going to be our main threat down this left-hand side. But how they actually like to have the ball, they want to be out wide. They do most of their work out wide. So there will be multiple times where you will see, they'll pass, and then there'll be a ball out wide, and then Semenyo or someone will run onto it. So they are really comfortable having the ball out in these kind of areas. When they get out wide, they really want to have different ways of playing. So how they will set up is the wingers will always be on the inside. Always be on the inside. The reason why they do this is because they want to make an overload for the centre-backs. And this is sort of where I say that our formation helps us out a little bit, because if let's take Richards out and say we played 4 at the back, already having these guys central looks very bad on these guys, because it's 2v1 pretty much if you look at both players here. Whereas if we have our 3 at the back, they've got their like 1v1 here. So for the purpose of me being able to explain how they attack, I'll switch us to 4 at the back really quickly, and then Richards ain't a midfielder, but just to make it easier to explain. So what they do is they want the wingers to be in this half space in between the fullback and the centre back. Obviously, the gap ain't going to be as wide as it is, but there will be a gap big enough for a player to run in between. But I'm just going to make the gap bigger just so you guys can understand a little bit more of what I'm talking about. What they want is they want the ball, the wingers specifically, they want the ball in here so they can pick up the ball and run towards the goal and make themselves 1v1 with the keeper. As they're doing this, Evan Nilsson will make a run, and Cliver will pick up the space where Evan Nilsson's just come from, and then Otara will make another run in the back post. So you will have, essentially, if you had your 2 centre-backs here, one of them would follow here, one of them would follow here. So Semenyo could either take the shot on his own, or he could find Cliver, who will be on his own in the box here. So against 4 at the back, how they move, how they operate off the ball is very dangerous, and it could be a very big issue. That's why the wingers want to stand on the inside, so they've got less people to compete against. Obviously, our fullback will probably follow them to make it harder for them, but just to make it easy for you guys to understand on the screen. How they attack is a little bit lopsided as well, because the fullbacks are very, very important. So, for example, with Smith in particular, they do like to cross the ball into the box, and the main man, Evan Nilsson here, every cross is aimed at him, every single one. And it's because their fullbacks have like a very strict zone in the different types of plays that they want to do to get the ball inside. So this path, they like crossing from deep. They really do. So if Smith is in about this area, they will cross from about here and have Evan Nilsson running in behind, and he'll try and get the ball to land around about in this area. So Evan Nilsson can try and get his head on it. You have Otara coming in there as well, so he's got more than one person to aim at. And then you'll still have Semenyo here being the option, so that we can't commit all our players back here, or he could just pass it into Semenyo here. He's got loads of space in the pocket. Cool. However, if you're in this half of the pitch with a fullback, which is more of where Kirkez will be, so let's move the ball over here. So let's say Munoz and Kirkez get back here, and they're in this half of the pitch. Instead of them trying to lift the ball in there, every time they'll pass inside. And that's another reason why they want to have this player in this half space that is dropped a little bit off the centre back to make it easier for them. So he can pick up the ball, he can either take a touch inside, he can pass to Evan Nilsson. You know, he'll probably have Cliver over here and maybe Cook as well, trying to create an overload so that they've got a lot of people here. So he's got people to aim at. So remember, if the fullback's got the ball in this half or in this quarter of the pitch, they're going to pass inside. However, if they're on this quarter of the pitch, they're always going to cross from deep. That's one thing. Another thing is with Evan Nilsson in particular, he is a very, very good forward. Probably hasn't scored the amount of goals that he maybe deserves this season, but he does have a lot of variation in his game. He will happily press the back line, you know, pitch himself against the centre back and go physically man for man for a centre back. But there are times where he will drop into the midfield as like a false nine to pick up the ball and make the plays happen. But when he does that, they sort of switch into like a 2 up front here. So in a sense, they'll sort of go 4-4-2 kind of. I mean, you see that here, 4 in the middle and then 2 up front, just so they can find more passes around here to then make an angle so they can pass into these guys and they'll link up really well to try and get a shot off. Cool. Going back to here again. So we need to make sure that this guy will either press the back line, go physically, or he'll drop in. And, you know, it's going to be a very difficult thing for one of us. Then, like, if you've got playing forward or back, for one of your centre backs, just follow him if he drops in, because, you know, look at the space that you're leaving one of their players with. So you cannot do that against a team like this. Other thing, really, they pass really well. They don't make like line breaking passes, worldly passes all the time. They can do it, but it's not all the time. But it's just the fact of they're very, like, you know how Adam Wharton passes? He passes with a lot of force behind it, and it's very calculated to where it's placed. Whereas, you know how Wharton will send it in behind? They won't do that all the time. What they will do is they'll put it to feet every time, and they'll do it with a lot of intensity. So when the person gets that touch, they've got enough force of the ball coming into them. If they open their body and they take a touch, that they can ping the ball out in front of them a few yards, they can actually run at it with pace, so they can keep the ball moving as quick as possible. They do like to play against high lines because they've got a lot of pace. You know, Semenyo and Evan Nilsson are quick, but Otara is absolutely rapid. So we do not want to be caught out. I do believe that Maximus Lacroix will be good enough to stop him, but he is on that right-hand side, so that will be a very Richards thing. And I think out of all our backs, Richards probably the weakest when it comes to pace. But the final thing is, the key man to make this whole team tick is this number 10. If it's Cliver or if it's Alex Scott. Let's just say, for example, I don't know, Evan Nilsson's got the ball here and he's gone man for man with Mark and he's brought the ball down. Cliver, he will pick up the vacant space. So if Evan Nilsson was here and he's moved over to here, Cliver will pick up the space that Evan Nilsson has vacated. He will always position himself so he can receive the ball off of Evan Nilsson and then he can look for another pass to create another opportunity. He will always be there or thereabouts for to create something. And even if it's not to receive the ball and pass, if he's received the ball here, he could take a few dribbles, get a shot off himself. That's why he scored so many goals. And it's just the 1-2s which are the thing that they can use to unlock people's defense. You know, one here, one out there, instant 1v1 battle. In here, one out there, instant 1v1 battle again. So the 10 is probably the main person that I'll be afraid of when it comes to them building up and them breaking. I know that this last thing will probably be much more of a Dan thing, but their press. I don't know if you're going to talk about their press a little bit, Dan.
I was going to do a little bit, yeah.
But
not loads.
from what I could see, their press is very, very intense. However, the stipulation there, so that they don't gas out their team in 10 minutes, is that they will press, but they will not press for the full 90. So there will be times where, the ball's been, so they've pressed, and so let's say, I don't know, Mitchell's the press trigger. They've all gone, and they've done it very aggressively, which, it does make an opportunity for us to, have a Hail Mary pass and get in behind there. There is the opportunity for that. But they are very, very hell-bent on when they go, they go. But after this happens, you could hit them on a transition there, great. However, after they've done that, they would be very, very, very happy to sit off of us and let us have the ball in our own half and not really press us at all after that, until they sort of recover, and then they do what they do. They cover, they shuffle around, and then they just sort of leave it. And then maybe 10 minutes later, they'll go again. So they'll have a very specific trigger where they'll go all in, and we need to find out what that trigger is, so then we can maybe manipulate that into how we can attack them.
Mm-hmm.
How to defend against them? I think a lot of that can be done through our formation. Obviously, because instead of having the half spaces in between the centre back and the fullback, we're going to have 3 centre backs in there. So they're all going to have one man on them at all times. So that will make it a lot harder for Semenyo to find the space. Is he going to go in this space in between the centre backs? Is he going to go in this space in between the fullback and centre back still? But the issue here is, if he goes out here, he's probably too wide for him to actually do any of the good work. If he goes in here, is he going to be too close to Evan Nilsson? Are they both going to be trying to go for the same space? And same thing out here with Otara. And they're just going to have one centre back in front of them at all times. But where our formation falls a little bit short, in my opinion, is that we're going to leave probably the most dangerous player, their number 10, with them having a man advantage in the midfield. So how do we combat this? I think the main way of doing this is being very narrow when it comes to our centre-backs, so not allowing them to have this run on the inside in the half space. I wouldn't say be comfortable, but try and usher them to maybe make runs down here on the outside, and then look for a cross in, which I think that we'd probably be able to cover, rather than them actually running inside. Try and make it as hard as possible to get shots off. Try and stop the number 10 from doing anything, whether this is going to be a Will Hughes man marking jobby here, or whether this is going to be a rotating role between him and Wharton. But I do think this is going to be one of those games where I think Eze is going to have to slot into midfield to help with this man advantage here, and then try and play off of the pace of Ismail Assar, because Huijsen and Senesi are not the fastest guys in the world. Kirkez is a very attacking fullback, so I think if Munoz stays high, it means that he can't get as high as he probably wants to be. And Smith isn't very vocal when it comes to him attacking, so I feel like Mitchell will have a little bit more of an easier time there. So if he stays high and he stays high, we're going to have sort of an advantage here. So this is probably the way I'd do. Have Eze drop back in, have 3 centre-backs and 3 midfielders, our wing-backs covering each other. And I think if you leave it like this, where you have Mateta and Sarr being able to run in behind, obviously Dan will talk about that a little bit more, I feel like we could get some love out of this game. Quick thing is, when Evan Nilsson drops, that needs to be either covered by Lacroix as he goes in, and then also even more covered for when that happens and Lacroix goes in, that our centre-backs have to come narrower to make it that the attackers still have to go down the outside and they can't find any route in here. And if they do, Henderson should have that covered. Beware of the deep crosses, as I said. Beware of them trying to play on the inside. And also, I would say beware of individual brilliance because Otara has scored a hat trick this season, Semenyo has scored a hat trick this season, and Cliver has also scored a hat trick this season. So they are outstanding footballers. Don't get me wrong, but they're just feeling a little bit of fatigue right now. And CPFC Charity Professional Football Club today or tomorrow might be the game where they get all their energy back. So they are a dangerous team. I think if we stay compact, narrow, don't give them half space, don't give them pockets of space to go into and run with the ball, I think we'll be all right.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to add to that, mate?
No, I think that was pretty comprehensive. I do, and actually, I'll say, I think, actually, I'll say it now, and I'll continue to talk about it in my bit. But I do think their intensity is definitely something that I noted as well. And it's something that I think the fact that they maybe is the end of the season and they are a bit tired, I think is probably something that is affecting them. But I'll talk about that a bit more in my bit. Would you foresee maybe Star doing I don't know, maybe like helping out, like I don't know, maybe if we just as an example, like if we dropped a bit deeper, and then maybe you had Sarr and Munoz have on Kirkes as a 2v1, and maybe that could be, I don't know, maybe a potential avenue to then maybe launch an attack down the right.
I think that would probably make us a little bit too heavy on that one side. I think because if we got, let me pull up the thing again. I think it'll mean we'll be too heavy on one side because if we're defending, and let's say, we got all our players back here. You got Munoz tucked in, and then you've got Sarr over here on Kirkes.
Oh, sorry, I meant as in push Munoz up a little bit, so it'd be more like that kind of thing, rather and something like that, yeah. So it's more a 2v1 versus Kirkes wherever he is, as opposed to Munoz and Richards.
To be fair, I think for me, I would much rather Sarr be up here with Mateta.
Take the gamble,
Take the gamble because I think if we can keep these two guys occupied, then they're not gonna, push up to try and help over here. And also, I think the deeper that you leave Munoz, the higher Kirkes is going to stay. And bearing in mind, Kirkes' danger area is here instead of his crossing.
I see, yeah.
I feel like if you leave Munoz up higher, you leave him out of his own danger area because his crossing isn't his main thing. It's having that ball played in behind there, running in there.
Oh, I see.
Dribbling in behind here and then finding the pass back. That's where his bread and butter is. But I feel like the higher you leave Munoz, the less likely he's going to be to want to gamble up high. Because if that happens, and I don't know, let's say we get a turnover and he passes it out, we're going to have a 3-on-2 battle going up here, which they don't want. They don't want that to be the case.
Yeah,
that's why I would probably leave it like this.
Okay. Yeah. That's fair enough.
Cool. Let's go into some comments. França as well for a penalty. Has he ever taken a penalty for Flamengo?
I can't recall him ever taking. He wasn't a penalty taker, so he had only ever taken them in a shootout, and I can't really recall a shootout, to be honest with you. So he would very much be an unknown quantity.
I also can't wait to see the transfers in the summer. Rich says, what transfers? All transfers, not just ours. Yeah, it'll probably be a better window for everyone else other than us.
Yeah, probably.
Ramsdale could go United.
Well, he wants to be relegated with fourth club, I guess.
To be fair, that game was incredible last night, wasn't it?
That was a very good game. I was looking, I was like, it's going to extra time. I'll watch extra time and see what happens. They went 2-0 up, or no, was it? They went 2 goals, I think, ahead in aggregate. And then
it was 2-0, and then Lyon went 4-2, and then they came back 5-4. You're thinking, wow.
No, do you know what? Do you know what the magic for United was? I put a tweet out when they were
Harry Maguire
2 goals ahead, And then I said, John Tex is taking Leon to a European semi-final. And then what? About 15 minutes later, they scored 3 goals. I conceded 3 goals.
And he just tweeted, well, full stop.
Yeah, I was like, okay.
Yeah. Well, Ryan Cherky looked good again, but I feel like that's a little bit too out of our reach. However, Malik Fofana, you are a footballer, my friend.
He's a good player.
That'd be hilarious. My dream transfer, which is never going to happen, would be Delap. If Mateta went, ideal replacement.
Yeah,
also, when I watched back the game where Ipswich actually beat them, the goal he scored, I know it was he had the ball free in the box and he just had a whack. But just a goal like that is just like my favorite kind of goal. He just absolutely levered it into the net.
I agree.
No thoughts about placing it. No, just smash the hell out of it and run off celebrating. So great goal. Not a hard goal, but a great goal.
Great.
Hughes has got a great pen on him, to be fair.
I would have thought he took him at. He must have taken him at Watford or Derby. I'm sure he's taken penalties in the past.
Probably. And then final one from Mitch saying, "Yeah, bad night for the Textiverse."
Yeah.
Never thought I'd hear that kind of statement. Textiverse. Anyway, let's go on to the defense. Defense.
So, to begin, I have some stats for you. And you know what? I was actually very shocked about these stats. So, Bournemouth, I currently have they currently rank 7th for expected goals against and 7th away from home. They rank 13th for the amount of shots that they concede per 90, but they have the second lowest non-penalty expected goals per shot, which again, that surprised me because obviously we think of them as a transition-based team. So you'd expect them to maybe concede not many chances, but, high quality chances. But that's not the case. And in terms of the shot creating actions that they concede, it's mostly take-ons and dead balls. To be honest, take-ons really doesn't surprise me because, again, this game is going to be a very transitional game. And obviously, if you got that, you're probably going to have take-ons in there or dribbles, whatever you want to call it. Now, I did do some little stats manipulation. They win most of their tackles of any team in terms of percentage of the tackles they win in the middle third. So the majority of the tackles they win are going to be in and around here. Where's it gone? And they allow few touches beyond the opponent's defensive third. So really, opponents they'll have most of their touches in this area. Anything beyond that doesn't tend to be there. One thing I did note though, and actually I'm going to save that one for later, but it's about their tackle rate against. Right. So first thing I'm going to say is that if you see them in a low block. Firstly, it's probably not they're not going to be in a low block for very long because, like I said, the way Iraola tries to play games is he tries to make games chaotic and effectively tries to coach them in being better in chaotic situations, if that makes sense. So therefore, they feel comfortable defending transitions. Basically, that's the idea of his principles. So we can talk about this, but you're probably not going to see it very often. But they would be in a low block, something like this, or if they're man marking a player, perhaps you might see something like that. But like I said, you're not really going to see this, so I'm not really going to talk about it. Now, bringing it back to where we were. So first thing I want to talk about is. Let's start from the other end, actually. Let's start from the other end. So let's talk about their press. So I know JC's already alluded to the press, but they will go man for man when they press. They're a very man-to-man team. So in this case, you might see Clivert. I don't know which way round it will be, but you have Clivert, say on Wharton. You'll have Hughes. Cook will push up to there. Obviously, our formation is a bit different, but it wouldn't surprise me to see something like this, perhaps. But they will basically go man for man. Now, when I say man for man, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're tight. So let's say that. Pause. So let's say, we're set up like this, like we normally do. Okay, so we got our double pivot there, something like this, blah, blah, blah. Something like that. Like, what I mean by that is, for example, if Eze's over here, like, Smith or whoever it is isn't going to be on them, like, straight away. They're not going to be touch tight. But whereas, for example, if you got your double pivots in the middle, they are going to be tight to them, because obviously that's a direct, quick passage for them to play through, for us to play through. So that's why that they'll be a bit more touch tight. So how would this work? Let's say we got a goal kick. Let's say pass to Maxime Sakwa. They're going to do the thing. They're going to run into the middle. Now, when they do this, they will obviously try to cover the passing lane, so press in shadow. But then as soon as they do that, the other players are in tune, so they will push up onto the player. Now, where is the overload here? So I don't know. Maybe they'll do something a bit different. Maybe Zabani will go a bit higher. Or Tyler Adams will push up. Sorry, so that's where you'll get that, and then they'll stay there. So they will always cover, so they'll always be man to man. Now, obviously, I'm going to talk about how to exploit these maybe as I go along. So, how do we exploit this? Well, I mean, at the end of the day, it really depends on how they're feeling that day. I know that sounds really dumb, but we've both noted that their intensity has maybe dropped off a little bit. And also, a Bournemouth fan who was on the channel yesterday also said the same thing, that maybe they are getting a bit tired. Iraola does anticipate a lot, and also like I said earlier, they're a very transition team. So 1 minute they could be here, another minute they could be here. So they're gonna get tired. Now, because I've seen, actually, I tell you what, let me crack out. I know it's a bit early, but let's crack this out first, right? Because it's pertinent to what I'm talking about. So let's talk about this tired press, as I'm going to call it. So I called it a tired press. So this was a press. Again, this was against Ipswich. So, we're not talking like crazy teams. And this was in the 58th minute, I believe. So they've got the ball here. Let me just get my red little paintbrush. So they've got the ball here. They're about to take the goal kick. Whoever the guy, Palmer, passes to this player here. Now, as you can see, they got their man. I don't know who Otara's got. I think someone's over here, so he's watching whoever's over here. Evan Nilsson would be ready to jump on this player. Obviously, as well, you can also notice that I'm not saying it doesn't work, but obviously you've got, if you've got a ball-playing goalkeeper, you have got a +1 here. But anyways, he's passed it to there. So number 7, I can't remember who number 7 is, goes to press. Sorry?
Alex Scott.
Oh, no,
David Brooks.
Right, so David Brooks goes up to press. And then immediately, that then tells, I don't know, Force Cook, isn't it? Cook to then go up there. And then it looks like that Ouattara is shifting over there. But all they've done is pass it there. Right, okay. That's Morsey, who, as we know, he's not. I wouldn't class him as like a Premier League technician. Gets the ball, he's then able to turn by the time he gets there. Right?
Would you call him a tram technician?
A what technician?
A tram technician.
I'll call him maybe a super tanker technician. That's how slow his turning circle is. But either way, he's able to turn right. Ouattara again hasn't quite got there, so their pressure isn't quite there. And then, and from then on, it's simple. Like I said, we're playing Ipswich. Yes, they are well drilled under McKenna, but let's be honest, their players probably aren't exactly Premier League quality. All he's done is turn. This player's, I don't know who that is, but they're following there.
Hutchinson.
Yeah, whoever that is, I don't know who the defender is, but whoever that is, simple pass there. And then, you can see a very, very easy pass as soon as he's going to go there for this player to run onto. Cajuste. Oh, that's the same one. So he receives the ball and he does ping it first time. So bearing in mind that he's already got there, okay, he's going to ping it all the way over here. But, if he was a bit smarter, maybe he could see that pass there. Or not smarter, but like maybe that pass could be opened up. Or let's say whoever Enciso that is, boo, maybe peels off. He could pass there. There's a few options here. But by doing this very simple one, you've taken out 1, 2, 3, 4, potentially 5. Nearly half the team already, just from a simple, not very good press, in my opinion. But anyway, he pings it over, and then I think the ball's up here somewhere in the air. It's going to come down here. So this player's then got to defend it. Okay, yes, they do get... Actually, no, sorry, tell a lie. This was the build-up to the goal. So this was the build-up to the goal. And then what happened was that he received the ball. Then you've got a 1v1. Okay, maybe they bat themselves in 1v1s, but you do have a 1v1. And, if it's maybe our team, you think about this player over here. I don't think, that could potentially be Munoz, or Munoz might be back here, let's say. And that could be Sarr. But if that was Sarr, he'd probably be in here. And if Sarr's in here, maybe they're over there. And then Munoz will then have a lot of space to attack over here. And then, at that point, it really is anyone's game. Or maybe, the attacking midfielder's a bit further up, so on and so forth. Point is, they were here and they ended up here within about 15 seconds, something like that. From, what was it? 1, 2. So how many passes was it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 passes, right? And I think that's one thing that we've done very well this season, especially in recent months, is that we have been able to counter-attack very well in transitions. So if I just delete all of these, forget it. I'll do it in a minute. Whoops. So that brings me back to here. Now, interestingly, right, I don't know if you noticed this, JC, but I feel like they don't really have a counter press. I thought it was quite odd. Or at least in the Ipswich game, they didn't really have a counter press.
I mean, I didn't notice. I wasn't really looking into their defense.
Yeah, fair. But so like let's say that we're defending, blah blah blah. We're in like a block of some kind, blah blah blah. These players up here, they're up here, Clivert's over here, whatever. Right, something like this. So if they lose the ball here, it seemed like they didn't press. So like normally, like when I say a counter press, what I mean is like, say you lose the ball there, a team will then, because they've got players around there, they'll try and win that ball back like as quickly as they can, right? But Bournemouth didn't really seem to do that, which I was very surprised about, because obviously we know them as like a quite a press intensive team, but they didn't really seem to do that. And let's say like Adam Wharton ran out with the ball there, so it seemed like they defended like a 5, like 2 blocks of 5. So you've got their 5 attacking players who might be like, I would say even Cook's probably one of those 5. You probably have these 5 here, right? And the other 5. So like these 5 will make an effort to actually try it. So let's say Wharton manages to find that pass there. These 5 will be the ones who try to make an effort to get back. Whereas these 5 won't so much. But what they seem to try to do is they just try to hold the player up. Most of the time. Sometimes they will gamble and try and win the ball there. They will try that. But if we're breaking away and they're kind of backing off a little bit, they're just going to try and hold them up. And the sole purpose of that, obviously, is so then these players can then kind of amble back. I think the purpose of this is tied into their attack, because like JC was saying, they play a very energetic attacking style. So you don't want those players expending so much energy in trying to get back, if that makes sense. So I think that's why they do it. So they do have this, and I think he's coached them in a way that they are pretty decent at it. But having said that, if your Smith's up there, if your Kirkes is up there, well, how likely are you to realistically be getting back? Like, let's say Adam Wharton does win the ball here, right? If they're not going to counter press, I think that there's a very easy out. There's a very easy out ball there to Ismail Assar. Like JC said, should we gamble on keeping him up the pitch or keeping him behind the pitch? Oh, sorry, towards our goal. There's an easy out ball there for him to run. And I think if Sar's running, okay, Houston is a good player, but I do think him running at a player, if he can just somehow get into space behind, I think that is squeaky bum time for them.
I mean,
and obviously then you've got
fair,
JP who be there. Go on.
To be fair, with all players that are very good technically, and you can't take anything away from that, sometimes just raw pace just can undo all the talent that you actually have. Because Hoyson isn't fast, but how many times have we seen Sarr just take a heavy touch and just sprint past someone?
Well, yeah, exactly. And the thing is, when you're say like, because when you've got this much space behind, because they will leave that much space behind because they are a very attacking team, and I think especially if you've got a fullback who is also, he's not inverting into the middle so he can recover. He is, going to be trying to exploit this space on the side in any way he can. That does leave the opportunity for Sarr. And I said, if we can get him behind and he'll be supported by Mateo, who, I don't know, maybe you could argue maybe he's been a little bit off the boil recently, but I don't know. And then, Munoz is also going to eventually, maybe when they get a bit further down the pitch, he's going to be not far off there. And if he can beat Kirkes in that race, then again, we're even if say Adams does come across and makes it difficult for a central pass into JP, you've always got hopefully then a Munoz who hopefully will be able to beat Kirkes in that race. What else do I have? I've actually done quite a lot here. So let's stick with the transitions. So now again, sometimes as well, what I found was that sometimes, because how I said that there's a 5-5, it does seem like, again, this is a chaotic game, so this can be something that happens. Let's say, I don't know, let's say it's something like that. We're not quite in our positions, whatever. I don't know, something like that, let's say. Sometimes what you find is that if you do win the ball in these kind of areas, what you'll find is that they're not quite set Bournemouth. So if you, which I know it sounds a bit obvious, but like if you are in this area, what you tend to find is between these five, well, let's say Cook's part of that five, you do find that there is a gap. And if they're not attempting to get back, sometimes you can find that gap in the middle. So I don't know, let's say Eze drops, into that space, he can very much find that space. And to be honest, even if they do get back, what I found as well was that they just seem to naturally leave like a gap in the middle. Like in this middle here, they just seem to naturally leave it, which brings me to some more images.
Way. Imagineers.
Exactly. So where are they? So gap in the middle. Open, and also I think is that to do with it? I'll chuck this on here as well. It's done it. Why is it do it like that? 2, 3, 4. It's done it in a completely weird order. Right, so this is number 1. So again, this is also Ipswich. So again, and not, we're not, it's something that we can certainly emulate. Can't remember where the ball is there, to be honest with you. But I think, I think this player's heading the ball. This ball's going to go over there. And then This drops down to Kajust, who then wins the ball and is able to turn. Wait, hang on a minute. What's going on here? Sorry.
No, you're right.
This player. No, sorry. He gets the ball here. He's then able to turn. Sorry, it was a little header down, so I got me mixed up there. He heads the ball down, gets the ball, and then what he's able to do, I don't know if you can see this player here, but all he does is turn around and literally ping it, right? And this is going to lead me on to another point of how close they seem to gather when they are defending. So you've got a little out ball there, and this player's here. So again, immediately, just by doing that, right, this gap in the middle, you've taken out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 players, right? And then another thing that I want to talk about is that when this happens, Houston always steps up, or at least in this game, it was always him who was stepping up. And obviously, if a player steps up, what does that leave behind?
Space.
So this could very easily be, this could be us. Like, I don't see what it could be. Like, for example, that could just be Sarr. Sarr passes to Mateta, right? Maybe that could be Eze or... Yeah, exactly. And then all they've done is then all they then do is just 1-2 it. And then, they're in this position, but they're not. Oh, sorry, that's a different thing. Sorry, ignore that. All they've done is 1-2 it there. Actually, I don't think they did do that, sorry. But that is something that they could do. Or, like I said with Munoz, let's say Munoz is making that run down there. We basically, what we could do is basically force this side for them to pack out. And then we've got 2 players who are more than happy to run in behind. Mm-hmm. So, that could be another thing to exploit. And the thing is, let's be honest, in a foot race there, let's say Mateta holds it just for a second, does a nice pass. If he does it with the right weight, that could be Sarr in. Equally, we could see a Munoz down here. Again, if he beats Kirkes in a foot race, that's just a ball out there. This was a space I was talking about in the middle. To be fair, this is a bit less of a transition, but is still something that I think is interesting, is that they still leave this massive gap in here. So obviously I know it might be slightly different because obviously we played different formations, but let's say, I don't know, let's say that let's say that's Hughes. Let's say we got Eze there, right? If we got Eze there, well, he's just going to drop into that space. And then, we've got plenty of space there. Or even if it's Mateta and then you have someone running off you, I think they're very spread out because you're looking at, because this player is obviously going with this player. Mm-hmm. That could be Mitchell. That could just be Mitchell holding width.
Yeah, I do want to stipulate as well that with them missing Ryan Christie, he is normally the one standing in that space that they are leaving. Mm. So him is probably the biggest miss for them right now because he would normally be around that area, wouldn't he?
Actually, that's a good question. Who is number 10 there? Let's have a look.
So what do you mean? So I know number 8 is Scott.
Oh, that is Christian, but he got injured.
And then so number 8 there is Scott, and then the one pressing is number 4, which is Cook. So Cook should really be where Christie is, like way back there.
Yeah.
And Scott should be the one pressing.
Yeah. But this space is definitely something that we can exploit. I mean, this player looks like, I can't remember what happens after this, but I mean, I think they're just very open here. And I think, I can't remember the status of this. I can't remember if this is what this was, like off the back of a transition or not. Probably was, because this game was basically transition after transition. So I think it was. But then that brings me on to slightly nicely onto the next point. I've already alluded to it, and this was especially bad at throw-ins, I noticed. I don't know why, but let's say we have a throw-in over here. So, we've got our usual sort of, I don't know, throw-in setup. Got these players over here, let's say, blah, 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 something like this. I don't know. They seem, I don't know why, right? But they seem to bring all of their players. Well, I can have a guess why. They seem to bring all of their players over here. So literally every single one seems to just be over here. And I get it, because obviously you're trying to get numerical advantages in these places, right? But they're literally all the way over here. Like, I'm not joking, right? I saw in the Ipswich game, they literally had like this player over here was completely on their own. Actually, no, tell a lie. Sorry, I'm going to change this. It was on the right hand side, so it was a bit more like this. Sorry, it was a bit more like that. Let's just say, okay. But there, the player on the left had literally all of this space. So if you're smart about it, you could and especially when you got someone like Adam Wharton, right? Let's say that Adam
to Mitchell.
Exactly. You could throw it to a player, as long as he peels off and positions himself so he can spray a pass in. Oh wait, let me get the line out. So if he's facing that way, the direction of that arrow, and we're quick about it, you could very much have Tyreek Mitchell in there. I mean, admittedly, that could be a tactic employed by Bournemouth because they don't need to watch him. But
I mean, you could say that actually, because for them, it's the same thing. Their left back is Leif Davis, who's not the best, and their right back is Twanzebe. So you much rather defend or allow Davis to have all that space than Twanzebe.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But one interesting thing I did notice, right, and they did it in West Ham as well, right? So they do have, so they did this, and then as soon as this got exploited, they stopped doing it. After that, they always left a player out here, and it was nearly always Semenyo. So if that player's over here, Semenyo would be more like over here. So then he was able to then get to that player if needed. But also as well, and this is a final point I'm going to make, at least I believe it's a final point. And it's the same. It doesn't have to be a throw-in. Like, let's say, Adam Wharton's got the ball over here, right? Let's just say. Like, their players definitely will drift over to this side of the pitch. Maybe not as extreme as with the throw-in, but certainly there's a lot more space over here. And they'll try to back themselves with 1v1s with the defenders. So let's say, and that is something that I noticed as well, is that let's say you did have this occur and Tyreek Mitchell's over here. I think they do try to back their fullbacks in 1v1 defending. And to be fair to them, Kirkhez has got a 60% tackle win rate in that situation, and Smith's got 50%. So perhaps that's why. But if we do manage to get out of there and get a 1v1, I don't know. As long as we got players supporting, I don't see why we couldn't try and pull them to the side, to be honest, and especially with the gaps that they leave in the middle. I think that's basically it, really. Oh, yeah, and I suppose couple that with the fact that they are quite, they are going to try and swarm the player. Obviously, if you can get it out of there, these players are going to be drawn in. So hopefully, if you do get that out ball to the side, that's going to be good. Finally, they're not that great at defending corners. And yeah, that's about it, really. Only other thing to note is that they score a lot of goals after the 76th minute. They've got the most in the league. Actually, let me check that before I'm branded misinformation man again. So Bournemouth, in the last 15 minutes of the game, they've scored 18 goals.
Sure. How many have we scored out of interest?
12. So, and actually, we're one of the better teams for it. So, Bournemouth have the most with 18. Then it's Fulham with 16, and Spurs with 16. And then the next after that is 13 by Man United, and then actually we got 12, so we're not too bad there actually.
Cool.
But yeah,
only 2 comments in that time. Durfez says, "I want replacements for Ward and Klein in the summer."
Yeah, absolutely.
Big up the dog.
Big up, dog.
And finally, we got Sean here saying at least 5 changes for tomorrow. Esse, França, Chilwell, and Nketiah should be starting. Who's the 5th? Because you said 5 changes and you listed 4 players there. Put that in a comment. But it is time for score prediction time, and it's time for me to throw myself in front of thy bus. told Dan about this already, about my prediction, and I told you guys on the stream yesterday. So if you guys watched that stream, then you will know my prediction. And it is 1-1 draw, in my opinion. I think that's a fair result. I think it's a result that we would need, probably a lot more than they need. They need a win if they're going to want to, compete for Europe still. Craig yesterday on the stream was saying that Europe is a necessity now because the interest. He said that the interest in the manager, in Huijsen, in Kerkez, in Evan Nilsson, in Semenyo is so high that if they don't get Europe, they don't think they're going to hold on to hardly any of their players or their managers.
I'm not going to lie. I don't think them getting Europe changes that, to be honest. I think big clubs will be circling for various players. And also, to be honest with you, I think it's part of their model to sell players. So I don't think...
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I think that they're going to need the win if that is the case, a lot more than we do. But I do think that they are beatable. We have... yes, the last two results are bad, but we were playing two of the best teams in the country. Let's not forget that.
Yeah, I think City are very improved. I think City are very much...
Ever since Marmoush came in, they are a completely different team. Absolutely. And also, De Bruyne has now finally come out and said, this at the end of the season, I'm gone. So he's going to be putting in world-class performance after world-class performance. And you know what? That's probably the best I've ever seen Kevin De Bruyne playing, in my opinion. Yes, he scored better goals. He scored more goals in other games, but from a game that I've watched the full 90 of, I don't think I've seen Kevin De Bruyne play better than that.
Yeah.
So I do think that we have been up against some outstanding competition, and we can only give them their flowers. And I do think that hopefully we've gotten all that nonsense out of our system, and we need to start picking up a little bit of momentum, as you say, before the cup game. Because if we go into that with a 3-game losing streak or 4-game losing streak, including the Arsenal game, when we're going to be so low on confidence that we're not going to play our proper football. So we're going to need a result in this game if we're going to go into Aston Villa with any confidence whatsoever.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the thing is, if we didn't have that Villa game, I wouldn't really be so bothered. But I think for me, it really is. It really is that. I just want to chuck up the Premier League table quickly.
What's your prediction quickly?
You know what? I'm going to go really against the grain here, and I'm going to say 0-0. I think it's going to be I think it's going to be a good game of football. I'm going against the grain. It'll probably be like 3-3 now. But I think after conceding 10, I think we're just going to be a bit more cautious. I think that's just going to really tighten them up. And I think we're purely going to be trying to hit on the break. So, but this is a table, and I'm only doing it really more for what you're saying about Bournemouth trying to get into Europe. I mean, you're looking at that eighth place position, and it is basically a three-way shootout between Bournemouth, Fulham, and Brighton, all on the same points. Bournemouth, however, much further ahead on goal difference. I don't think any of those three players are going to break into the top 7, to be honest with you. It is possible, but I don't know. I think Villa are in decent form. Chelsea realistically, they probably only need like a couple of wins, to be honest.
I mean, there are a few stipulations. I think if Arsenal win the Champions League, that's one. If Villa or City win the FA Cup, that makes it drop another place. So there is still possibility of Europe down to 8th position.
Yeah. So I think
I think if Chelsea win the Europa League as well, I mean the Conference League, then it'll go down another place. So in theory, European football could go down to 9th position if all goes to plan.
Well, theoretically, actually, I don't know about Man United. No, definitely not them. But I know Chelsea, if now Villa are out, if Chelsea win the Conference League and they finish 8th, then it will drop down to 9th. So Chelsea would need to finish 8th, which, to be fair, that's not beyond the realms of possibility. They're 6 points behind, 6 points ahead. But I think realistically, I think the only team that could win the FA Cup and it would, I think is only us, because I think because you've got City, Forest, and Villa, they're going to finish somewhere up there somewhere. So, yeah.
Cool.
And Rich, I know we're only 5 points behind, but the question is,
have you seen who we're playing?
who we're playing, and also all 3 of those teams have to drop
5 points just to catch up.
5 points in that time in 6 games. I can't see that happening, to be honest. But yeah.
Cool. Dan, is there anything else that you want to chat about before we round out?
No, I think that's all good.
Cool. Guys, thank you very, very much for watching. That was TACT-EAGLE. You got your double TACT-EAGLE in 1 week. So Jeez. I've enjoyed it. I hope you've enjoyed it. Hope we get a point at least tomorrow. And we'll see you there. Fan cams after the game. So if you are there, meet us at the fan zone. And as always, like, share, subscribe, and up the Palace.